Hello there, ladies and gentlemen that listen to the Locked On Penguins podcast. I'm, of course, your host, Hunter Hodes, and we finally have at least a little bit of traction on the Kris Letang and Evgeni Malkin contract stuff with a full month to go until free agency, 30 days officially until the UFA market opens. Rob Rossi and Josh Yohe of The Athletic had a report today that was definitely encouraging, especially with the contract discussions with the number one defenseman, Kris Letang, also an update of Evgeni Malkin, other stuff relating to the Penguins off-season decisions. I'm going to get to all of that for today's episode of Locked On Penguins podcast, starting with the Kris Letang discourse that took place on social media and just in the article itself. So we're going to jump into that and then turn our gears to Evgeni Malkin and to the other stuff in Rob Rossi's story later on in the show, right after this drop.
You're Locked On Penguins, your daily podcast on the Pittsburgh Penguins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host, Hunter Hodes. You want to follow me on Twitter, Hunter Hodes. Follow the show's Twitter at LO_Penguins. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline's are covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. That is BetOnline, where the game starts. A couple big anniversaries in Penguins history that I would be remiss if I did not go over them. June 11th, this past Saturday, the 5-year anniversary of the Penguins hoisting that the back-to-back Stanley Cup in 2017 against the Predators, Patrick Hornquist being the hero. And then yesterday, the 2016 anniversary of the game in San Jose where Kris Letang was absolutely magnificent, and the 2009 series against Detroit Red Wings. Penguins loved their June 12th. And, that Sunday is, on a personal level, 6 years to the day where I graduated high school and then had to rush home to watch the third period of the Penguins Sharks game. I eventually did go back and watch the first and second periods. I think I even live tweeted it when I was doing it and was just flat out stunned how that game was not 4-1 or 5-1 heading into the third. Martin Jones was incredible, but had to touch on that before we really get into today's show. And speaking of Kris Letang, that was the big update in Rob Rossi's story. So it said, what we're hearing with the Penguins offseason. He started off, sources tell The Athletic that signing Kris Letang is the Penguins' top priority. He says there's optimism among club management and his representation that a deal can be reached to prevent him from becoming a UFA on July 13th. That is very encouraging any way you slice it. For the longest time, I've been saying it on the show, other people have been saying on social media that write podcasts about the team and all that it's kind of a toss-up for me, 50-50 whether he comes back. I've always felt more comfortable that Gino is going to be the one to come back and Letang may go out and cash out somewhere else. But based on this update, it looks like Letang, might be trumping Gino as the one that's more likely to come back at this point. Rob also says that they identified Letang as their top priority for retention after agreeing to the new contract for Brian Rust. They did say also, if I can go down here, Penguins representatives for Letang and Malkin, the talks are ongoing, but the management, this is the big kicker. Ron Hextall and the Penguins management, they want to know how much Letang will cost with his AAV before turning their attention more seriously to Gino. And my thoughts on that, I think that's the right move. I think the Letang number, because he's going to be getting a raise, and rightfully so because of how good he was this season, you have to figure out what that contract is going to look like. How many years do you want to give him? Do you want to be a little bit bold and do 5 years? Maybe both sides can agree to that, but, can Ron Hextall and Brian Burke agree on the number for him? Does it start with an 8? I think that's probably the number one question for me. Can you get him below 8? It's going to be hard because he's definitely outplayed that 7.25, but how high are they willing to go to keep this player in Pittsburgh? I don't think Letang's going to ask for 8.5 to 9. I think that would be a bit ridiculous. But, maybe 8.1, 8.2 at the most is what I'd maybe be willing to give him. 8, is kind of also I wouldn't say stretching it, but it's definitely bold to do that for the Penguins. They have to figure that out. But, I've said it on this show a lot over the offseason, that Letang should be their top priority. I am glad that it sounds like, according to Rossi, that Letang is indeed their top priority, and they're trying to get him done before really focusing on Gino. I'm sure Malkin probably doesn't care that much. I mean, I know he's been here for 16 years, and maybe he'll feel like should be the bigger priority. But him and Letang have meant just as much to the organization as it's interchangeable. Both have done so much. So I'm not really a big fan. I'm not really too worried about that aspect of it. And also, I can see why they want to get Letang done, because, I mean, there's really no one else that can replace him that's on the UFA market and the trade market, which brings me to this nice social media discourse that, I tweeted out that part of the story on my Twitter account today. Got a whole bunch of reactions. And as you all know, there is a very loud but a very minority group. And again, that it's a loud group that think Kris Letang stinks. He shouldn't be re-signed. He turns the puck over way too much. Blah, 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 blah. They don't give you any statistics to back up their claims. Some guy tried to tweet me today of a clip of literally Letang and Dumoulin going from defense to offense and saying Letang should not be behind the goal line. Again, a lot of these people really don't know what they're talking about. As Chad Nolan, MadChad412, said to me on social media and when he's been on the podcast before, I judge people with knowing stuff about the Penguins by how you feel about Kris Letang. I'm sorry if this is going to tune a few people off. Most of the people I think that listen to the show know what Letang brings to the table, but I'm going to say this. If you are one of the people that think he should not be re-signed or thinks that they're not worse without him and all this other stuff, he turns the puck over way, way, way too much. I had someone else in my mentions today saying that to me while citing a different thing, which I'll get to in a second. I'm probably not going to take your opinion seriously of the Penguins. I'm not, because, you can throw so many data points at these people, give them actual statistics, data that backs up what I have been watching, and these people will not care. They will use strawman arguments to win debates. And at the end of the day, nothing good is going to come from that. Someone said to me today, they sent me this. This was hilarious. If I can find the tweet here. I can just describe it to you all. It was like the most turnovers among any players in the league. Letang was like in the top 10 to 15. But if you look at the top 10 to 15, Leon Draisaitl, Johnny Gaudreau, Miro Heiskanen, all these other great players, I'm like, wow, it's almost like, yes, great players are going to probably be in that category because they have the puck on their stick every single game. And sometimes, most of the time, I should say, you have good decisions with those players. Some other times you have bad decisions, which I get it. Letang has made plenty of bad mistakes in his career. I can easily say that as someone who can be objective about him and the stuff. The anti-Letang people want you to be objective when it comes to him, but, I have no problem praising him. Well, also when he screws up, I can dump on him too. I mean, for those that, listen to the show all season, I mean, whenever he had a bad game, I was always the first to say that he stunk, and I expected him to be better the next time. And, sure enough, that's exactly what happened. But, I'm not going to sit here, and hear these weird statements from people about a defenseman in this franchise's history in terms of how great he is, and still is, I should say. You can count the number of better defensemen that have played for this franchise as a whole on one hand. Heck, you probably don't even need to use more than two fingers before you get to him. I could only probably use one or two before I get to him. It's Paul Coffey at number one. It's Kris Letang at two. People can argue Ulf Samuelsson and Sergei Gonchar and whoever else you want to put in there, Larry Murphy. But I'm taking Letang over those three, except Paul, any day of the week. And And if you do find yourself in a debate about Kris Letang, and you're talking with someone who is part of the anti-Letang cult, I want you all to say this to these people. Ask them who you are going to replace him with. Who's going to take his minutes? Who's going to take that power play time? Who's going to do what he does at even strength, generating offense? Who is going to do what he does in the defensive zone, shutting down anyone that comes in with his 1v1s and whatever? If they tell you John Klingberg, laugh at them. That's not going to happen. Klingberg turns the puck over way more often than Letang does, for the people that want to use that as a stat, which is basically just useless at this point when you have all the great players up there. And Klingberg didn't generate the offense that he did this year. And defensively, he flat out stunk too. So don't give them that. Have them name actual top pairing defenders that are either available or you can get for trade that actually fit the Penguins' budget with their salary cap issues. That's what I would say for you all if you are ever caught in that kind of debate. I'm tired of these people not appreciating one of the best players to ever play for this franchise. It is very weird that there is a very loud but a very minority group of the fan base that does not appreciate him. It makes no sense. You can have a balanced discussion about this player without turning it into, oh yeah, he stinks, he should not even be close to being re-signed. And you'll also have these people say, well, they lost in the first round 4 years in a row, something has to change. But I hate that argument, because then you're just making changes for the sake of making changes. How about you show me a blueprint of what you would do then? I mean, if Evgeni Malkin and Kris Letang are walking, who are you bringing in to replace them? What is your grand plan as armchair general manager, going on Cap Friendly and making all these weird deals like you're also on NHL 22 or something like that? I mean, it's baffling to me. It's just people have all these these weird statements about, oh, I want to do this with the team, or you're not being objective and all that, when in reality it's those people that are not being objective because they're blinded by pure hatred for a guy who really does not deserve any of that hate. And I get if people are skeptical about that potential contract, 5 times 8 or something like that. I get it. It's risky. The wheels can fall off at any time. But with how he has played well into his 30s, it's a risk that you have to take. You're not getting anyone to replace what he does in all your situations. You need to have this guy retire as a member of the Pittsburgh Penguins. So I had to bring the heat a little bit for this first segment. I'm sick and tired of people just, hating on the guy for no reason, or thinking this team should rebuild and let these two guys walk, especially Letang. It's just, it's nauseating at this point. Coming up in the second segment, we're going to get to some of the other stuff in the article from Rob Rossi. If I can get to the, there we go. I think I clicked the wrong link for the ad that we are about to run here on the Locked On Penguins podcast. Our next partner has a product I use literally every day. I started taking Athletic Greens because, I didn't have time to sometimes work out in the morning. I wanted more energy because I sleep in a little too much, especially on weekends and stuff, if that does make sense. But even when I do sleep in, I'm still sometimes I'm not, as refreshed as I want to be. I want to supplement that also tastes great, wanted to see what the hype was about and all that stuff. So what is this stuff? With one delicious scoop of Athletic Greens, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, and probiotics to help you start your day right. The special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and your aging. It costs you less than $3 a day to do this. You're investing in your health, and it's cheaper than your cold root habit. You're investing in an all-in-one nutritional insurance, and has over 7,000 5-star reviews, recommended by professional athletes, and it's trusted by leading health experts such as Tim Ferriss. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and armor your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every single day, and that's it. There's no need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/NHL Network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. All right, I'm back here on this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. Follow the show's Twitter at LO_Penguins. So getting on to some other stuff from this article with Rob Rossi. He did also confirm a big one here that the Fenway Sports Group, which, a very analytically inclined ownership group here. They love having people in charge that will make decisions based off analytics. Rossi confirmed that, the people at the top of the organization now, they want both Letang and Malkin in Pittsburgh through the remainder of their respective careers. And yes, remember when that written plan thing was going around on social media? I think that was from Josh Yohe, who originally reported it. Well, so this was part of Hextall's written plan presented to the Fenway Sports Group towards the end of the NHL regular season. So he also does want the core to retire in Pittsburgh at the end of their careers. Rob also says Fenway Sports Group has identified retention of those two players as a way to guarantee that Sidney Crosby will play his entire career with the Penguins. Because, think about it here. Only 3 years left. I mean, it's already been 9 of the 12 years since Sid signed that deal. And that was when the CBA was way different than what it was now. I mean, there's like cap recaptures with that thing. If he does retire early, I mean, it was an $8.7 million AAV, probably one of the more underrated AAVs in the game. I mean, he should probably be making 11 to 12 million right now, but the Penguins got really lucky when they did pay him at that time. But yeah, I mean, that's coming up pretty quick. Only 3 more years until Sid is a UFA. And Rob also says management is keeping him in the loop as much as he wants regarding ongoing talks with Letang and Malkin. That's good. You always want to keep the face of the franchise, the second best player to ever play for this franchise, in the loop with 2 of his longest tenured teammates. I mean, also 2 of his best friends. So perfectly fine with that. Going down a little bit more here. He says, despite one of the deepest NHL free agent classes of the salary cap era, management has assessed the best use of resources to continue building around a core of Crosby, Malkin, and Letang. So for those people out there that want the team to rebuild and all this other nonsense, it's not going to happen. They want to continue to win with these 3. Now, can you get a bit younger outside of them? Absolutely. That's going to be the job of the management this summer, making decisions, moving some money out, bringing some money in with players that are a lot younger that can add some energy, some youth to this lineup, some speed to this lineup, and most importantly, obviously generating offense to this lineup as well. So if you all want to say that team maybe needs a little retool, while also saying they can bring back Letang and Malkin, I am all for that. I think that's a totally fair thing to say, and I do think that's probably going to be one of their big plans this summer. Couple other things here from Rossi. In case anyone thought that Mike Sullivan was going to be fired, he said that's not going to be the case. He's going to be the head coach next season. In addition to having full support of the management, Sullivan has also impressed the new ownership group, which views him as an integral building block for the Penguins moving forward. Best possible news right there. The Penguins don't need to be the freaking Boston Bruins over here and fire Bruce Cassidy for reasons. I mean, that was a hilarious move. I don't know why the Bruins decided to do it. He had the Bruins, I think, in 4 or 5 of the 6 years he was there, the number 1 team in all the NHL in expected goals each season. Every underlying metric was top 10 when he was there. And they decided to get rid of him for reasons that, are unknown to me. That's for sure. Another one, a big one here, assistant coaches Tar Reardon and Mike Vellucci have been granted permission to interview for any current or future head coaching openings this offseason. No management, they don't want to lose either assistant. It sounds like Chicago with Reardon, they may have another interview, and it sounds like, according to Rob, Elliot Friedman has not reported this, the Red Wings and Steve Yzerman might be interested in having Vellucci in for an interview. I did listen to Friedman on 32 Thoughts on Monday morning, confirmed that it looks like Vellucci is not going to get the job in Philly. Said that he impressed them a lot, but I think they're moving forward with one of Peter DeBoer, Barry Trotz, or John Tortorella. I know which one I want them to hire, but I also want, and I think I know which one you all want the Philadelphia Flyers to hire as well. The very chaotic option, to say the least. He did say also management plans to add an assistant general manager to Hextall staff, and an internal candidate is a leading contender for that. The leading contender, Chris Pryor, currently the Penguins director of player personnel. This is my reaction to that. Yes, in case, for those that did not watch the YouTube version, that was me doing a face palm all over my face. Please, Ron Hextall, bring in someone from outside the organization that has fresh ideas. You don't need to have 3 to 4 people in your hockey ops, and that's it. It's perfectly fine to hire people from other teams that winning teams, preferably, that know what they're doing, share your ideology, or also, again, can bring in new ideas for this front office. I don't know why you have to have a internal candidate potentially be another assistant general manager. There's probably plenty of hockey executives out there that would love to be an assistant general manager under you, especially, for the Pittsburgh freaking Penguins here. So I beg for him to please go outside the organization here. I don't need to, I understand the Steelers do one thing and they promote with it from within. I don't need to see the Penguins do it too, especially when, the Steelers front office is a lot bigger than the Penguins. I really do not get that at all. So hopefully he is able to do that. And there's a couple other notes that I'm going to save for the final segment of this episode. One of them does involve Andy Saucier. And it's good news on him. No, that the Penguins are not going to lose him here. That's for sure. So that's coming up in the next segment, plus a potential small preview of the Stanley Cup Final. But before we get to that, I'm having trouble breathing here almost, it looks like. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all of your betting stats and sports info. You can find all the latest developments, news, and odds, including the NBA Finals, the Stanley Cup Final, Major League Baseball, and of course, all the latest fighting news from MMA and UFC to boxing. BetOnline is your continued source for all of your sports wagering information, including live betting, esports, and more. You can head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. That is BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, I'm back here on this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. Follow the show's Twitter at @L_Penguins. So big news when it comes to Andy Saucier. He is expected to receive a promotion and a new title, but he's still not going to have his in-game responsibilities change. He says this move will be preemptive so as to not lose Saucier, who is viewed around the NHL as possessing elite recognition when it comes to which plays can be reversed. I mean, when you have a video coach that is 100% with offside reviews, and I actually did a little bit of digging to get that set. He has never lost an offside review for as long as he has been doing this, going back to the 2015-16 Jonathan Drouin one. Since then, never lost. People will point to the goaltender interference ones. That's not Andy Saucier's job. That's actually the goaltending coach buzzing down for that one. So when they challenged the game one against the Rangers, that was Andy Chiodo challenging that. So Saucier, he is definitely elite at knowing when plays are offside and when they're not. Anytime the Penguins are challenging for offside, I know they're going to win it. And the replay will always show it. It's like, well, I hope honestly opposing teams, when there's offside reviews and the Penguins challenge it, they're probably going to be like, well, this one's coming back because this guy actually knows what he's doing. So once that promotion is announced, I'll definitely be the first to congratulate him. He definitely deserves it. He has done a lot for this coaching staff. Just a great video coach. And, maybe one day the Pittsburgh Steelers will hire someone like that. So Mike Tomlin wants to win some more challenges because he has been dreadful in that regard. And I'm sure Chris Carter of Locked On Steelers would gladly share that sentiment. And here's an interesting one that I've really not heard a lot about this offseason. The Penguins would not stand in the way of assistant video coach Madison Nickel if a head video coach job becomes available. Vancouver, where Jim Rutherford is there, has sought permission to interview Nickel for its top video coach position. I'm sure Madison will do a great job in that role, especially learning under Saucier. I mean, Andy could probably teach any person to do what he does in even just in basics 101. And I'm sure whoever is under him, could go to an NHL team and do a good job. So I'll be curious to see if that comes to fruition a bit over the offseason. But those were the big updates, and it's basically taken us a full 25 minutes to discuss those in the show today. I have been waiting for these kind of updates. It makes me so happy to get them, especially because, we're almost getting closer through the season reviews now. We really only have the defensemen and some of the AHL call-ups to go over for the rest of those. But, also have a ton of free agency stuff to do going forward, the draft. And I'll try to have a couple people on that know a lot more than me about that. That's for sure. But, I appreciate Rob's reporting on this. I'm definitely getting excited about Letang potentially coming back and Malkin potentially coming back. And, again, I think the Penguins, they're doing it right here with prioritizing Letang, just because there's not a lot of great options if he does not come back next year. Real quickly here, Stanley Cup Final, Tampa Bay, Colorado. Our long national nightmare is over with the Rangers being eliminated. Golf claps, golf claps, golf claps. They stood no chance in Game 6. But when Toronto tied it, I was like, feels like only a matter of time before Tampa Bay is going to take the lead. Sure enough, 20 seconds later, Steven Stamkos gives them the lead. And, this is probably going to be the best Stanley Cup Final in almost a decade. I said at least 2009 for the Red Wings Penguins, when you have the Red Wings, that veteran team that won it the year before, one of the best teams in the Cap era, going up against a Penguins team that is ready to break through. And that's what you have here. You have the veteran championship Lightning, who are going for more history, going up against an Avalanche team that is ready to break through. They've won 12 of 14 playoff games. They have game breakers at every position, just like the Lightning, a damn good goaltender when he's healthy. This series screams 7 games. And, I got my last 2 predictions right, especially the Bolts in 6-1, so I bounced back a little bit. I'm gonna go Avs in 7 here. I think they do enough to dethrone the champs. I think it's going to be very close, very highly contested. But I think Colorado, it's their time, and I think they're gonna break. I think we're gonna see a performance for the ages from Nathan McKinnon. I think Cale Makar is going to be awesome, and seeing him go up against Victor Hedman is going to be incredible. 2 very well-coached teams. This compares to Pittsburgh, Detroit, Chicago, Boston 2013. Boston, Vancouver 2011 was incredible. I did have some people say St. Louis, Boston. That was also a really good Stanley Cup Final. But, this is 2 heavyweights going at it. It's almost like, Drago versus Rocky and Rocky 40, when one team, I should say, not as big of a villain as Drago is, but they're definitely the villain, but going up against a team that, I think a lot of people want to see when this would be their first Stanley Cup in 20 years, basically. So I'm going Avs in 7. That's my official prediction, and we'll see if that comes past. Final starts on Wednesday of this week. And with that, that's going to end today's episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I really appreciate all of you listening to this one. I know I had to bring the heat a little bit in the first segment because I had just a whole bunch of weirdos in my mentions on social media and stuff telling me why it's not important for the Penguins to bring back Letang. And, I kind of laugh and scoff at it at this point. So again, that'll do it for this one. Thank you all so much for listening. I'll be back with another episode on Tuesday for this team, and I will talk to you all then. I hope you all have a great rest of your Monday.